morning. My name's Alex Langer, and I'm President and Director of Lift Power. Lift Power is an exploration and development company focused on large-scale lithium pegmatite projects within Canada.
Good to see you, Alex.
Good to see you, Matthew.
Man, you're backyard almost.
Oh.
So it took you 5 hours to fly here, right?
Plus or minus another 2 hours.
Big country. Look, can't catch up with you. We always talk about the high-grade lithium that you keep finding at Yellowknife, and it's more of the same, which is great for you. But I guess we investors want to see some kind of resource. Want to see what's the scale of this opportunity in front of us. When are we going to see that?
Yeah, that's a really good point, Matthew. So we've now drilled about over 50,000 meters of diamond drilling, which is an incredible amount. One of the largest programs within Canada, and that was in the last 12 months. So you're right, we do have a few more drill results coming out, but what's going to be, I guess, the next major catalyst is that NI 43-101 resource report, and that should be due towards the end of the summer.
And it's fantastic.
Yeah,
okay.
so it's coming really soon.
Have you got a sense of what you're going to need to put in the market? Like, lithium's been through a really rocky period, last 18 months, right? And people looking at it going, a lot of damage, a lot of collateral damage, value destruction, etc. But the good news for you is you're super heavily funded day one, a lot of drilling, and I guess not a lot of competition.
It's true. Yeah, no, that is a good point. We've had some amazing shareholders, so we're able to bring quite a bit of capital. We did another raise recently for about 11 million Canadian, and that's going to push us through this summer. So outside of the resource, we are going to be doing quite a bit of metallurgical work.
Right.
So we started that earlier this year. That's really important when you look at lithium projects. Not all lithium, not all spodumene is the same. So you have to make sure you can actually get it out of the ground, which is quite important. So far, so good on that front. So that'll be coming out as well this summer. And then we've also started our environmental baseline work.
Right.
So we're quite confident it's going to be an absolutely major project, one of the largest, in Canada, if not the world, which is great. But we do want to start our environmental permitting work and community engagement, things like that. So that's really kind of the focus for the summer all the way into the fall. Right,
and you've been sort of changing the board a little bit as well, bringing in new skill sets and I guess knowledge on board. To what end, right? Because 43-101 coming out, which is good news. Network, good news. Do you have a sense of the kind of scale you're going to need to present to the market? Because there's a lot less people coming to markets. What do you need to show them?
Yeah, it's a good question. So I think you need to see size. So that's kind of number one. There's a lot of lithium projects out there. There's only a few that actually have a lot of size. Lithium's pretty abundant in the world. Like it is, honestly. So you need to be one of the largest projects in the world, in my opinion. The world needs a lot of lithium. There's going to be an incredible squeeze coming. That's great. Obviously, the investor sentiment isn't there right now, but it will come. I truly think there's probably going to be maybe 10 to 20 major mines in the world that'll be in production, and that's probably enough, honestly. Right. So you have to make sure that you're de-risking all the way along and then you're pushing towards production as quickly as possible. And that's always been our thematic, is to push things along very, very quickly. And we spend a lot of cash to be able to do so.
So speed to market is kind of defense in the sense that why would anyone fund anything else if you got enough supply and market? Okay, North American market, great. Critical mineral, critical mineral security, great for you guys. But there's I guess a lot more for you to do post the 43-101. You're going to need to demonstrate to the market that this can get to the end line technically. So when do you start looking at stuff like that? Network's not quite enough in that.
Definitely not.
Right. Okay.
So it happens right away. So once your resource is done, now we can say, hey, we're this big. This is a major project. Now we can start engaging some of the engineering firms, working on scoping studies, which we've done internally, but we're going to have to eventually do PEA, feasibility, all that good stuff. But I think once that resource is out, we're able to kind of check market. Yeah, we're here. And this is, how big it is. Now we can start engaging communities. We can start engaging governments. We can start engaging even larger corporations who can perhaps assist some of that work. It's going to be a major project, which is pretty exciting. So I think once we have that check mark, it's going to open up a lot more doors for us.
Because if you think about what industry needs to understand, i.e. the kind of people who could come in and help you build this thing. Once the 43-101 is out and the network is out, that's great. But what were the things you learned from your time at Millennial? When you kind of help put that package together, which get it to a point where it can be funded. So reports, great, but you kind of quite close to actually being able to say, honestly, we know enough now about this. The economics will stand up. Come and talk to us, get involved, maybe even start getting strategic investors in. I mean,
for sure. So those conversations have been ongoing. I know with Millennial, that's a good point. It was 3.5 years before something came.
Right.
It was one of those scenarios where we engage people early, which we've actually done with Lift as well. Have those conversations, let them see the project grow. And these bigger groups, if there's eventual M&A or even a funding to put this into production, it's again all about de-risking. So you start, your project is here. You have all these different risks, and you just got to knock them off. So, for one, it's resource size. Boom, that's gone. It's always a big risk. Next can be network. Sure, that's another risk. And then it's permitting, and then it's community engagement, and it's funding. So as you can knock all of these things off, that project becomes much more attractive, and more attractive for possible M&A, more attractive for perhaps a strategic investor as well. Right. So it's a relatively simple game plan. Yeah. You have to have the right project, you have the right people, and you mentioned earlier we did bring in a new board, about half the board, which is amazing. A gentleman named Paul Gruner, who's from the Northwest Territories, and a lot of community engagement with Indigenous groups, which is really important. We brought in Ava, who's one of the top M&A lawyers in Canada. So we've kind of evolved the board from what it was at the beginning, purely exploration, to now more of a development company.
Right, and obviously you're in Canada. It helps the whole North American thematic as well in terms of automotives, etc. And we've seen other companies benefit from OEMs moving upstream, because if you look at things like the IRA, Inflation Reduction Act, etc., everything's kind of focused downstream processing, and that doesn't help miners. What does being in Canada do for you?
It gives us a lot of opportunity, actually. So that IRA point is a great one. And I was just in Korea, actually, about a month ago, speaking at a conference, and 100% of the discussion was IRA. What does that mean for nickel? What does that mean for lithium? What does that mean for cobalt? Will these projects in Australia fit into the scheme? Will these projects in the Philippines fit in the stream? And most likely a lot of them won't. So in essence, what the U.S. is trying to do is have a shift from battery metals that aren't processed in China or by Chinese.
Why is that important?
China right now obviously controls the lithium market a whole bunch. Like 72% of all lithium is through China, whether that's ownership through SQM or Greenbushes, or processing material. They buy the concentrate, process in China, off it goes. So the Korean and Japanese are happy. They get their material, they get it processed, they get the batteries put in cars. But for the American and the American government, it's not going to work. So a lot of that material will not be fungible into this new U.S. North American system, the IRA.
Big concern.
So it's going to eventually come into like a two-pronged system, a two-tiered pricing system as well.
Yeah.
IRA compliant lithium and non-IRA compliant lithium.
Yeah.
And a project within North America, if it's processed here or even in Korea or the area, honestly, just outside of China, that'll be fungible into whatever.
Essentially, we've seen a lot of Koreans and Japanese training groups and also battery manufacturers, Samsungs of this world, coming into the nickel space, certainly over the last year. You expect that lithium, if it can project the scale of the opportunity, it should be the beneficiary of that kind of foreign direct investment.
Absolutely.
Is Canadian government okay with that?
So as long as it's not Chinese, that's really the main issue.
Right.
So we've obviously seen some of the lithium projects in Argentina where the Canadian government wasn't too happy and made those Chinese companies divest, which is strange to me, even though the projects were outside of Canada. We're in Canada, so this is definitely going to fit within that system. There's also probably going to be U.S. capital available to us as well.
Right.
And even the Canadian government has put up quite a bit and are starting to do that as well. So we're having those conversations ongoing, but I think once that resource comes out, we can say, hey, this is the size, this is what it can mean for Northwest Territories and Canada in terms of revenue producing project and the amount of employment you get from it. I think they're going to be very, very supportive in the very, very near.
Right, okay. Now you said speed is of essence. It's also partly because as a defense mechanism.
Sure.
And I do love that thought of, yes, we've got access to money, but we've got to get motoring here because there's not room for everyone who's talking a lithium game, especially after the boom of 2022. Okay, 43101 saying the studies need to come quick and fast.
Correct.
Are you going to be able to, is this a very sort of simple project in a meaningful way?
For sure. It's lithium spodumene, it's outcropping on surface. In terms of mining, it doesn't get much easier.
Right.
To be honest, you're looking at almost a quarry operation, right? A lot of it sticks out of the ground, so you're mining down before you even go out to an open pit. Having said that, it's Canada, and we have to be cognizant of local communities and waterways and all that good stuff, but it's been done many times before, and it can be done again. So as long as you're having those conversations, you're doing the work now, it's going to expedite that process down the road. Canadian government has also indicated they will help for these types of projects to help accelerate things. And that's what we're working towards. So for us, engaging the local Indigenous community is really important. We'd love to, almost joint venture with them in terms through the permitting process and things like that. So it's all coming together, but the really big catalyst is going to be that resource. This is the size. It's huge. Now let's keep going forward.
Okay, and let's talk a little macro, if you don't mind.
Sure.
Obviously seeing that absolute dramatic fall off from lithium because it shot out of the gate. People were like, losing their minds over it in 22. But the reality is set in that as a nascent industry, these things happen, so it's not a problem. But gravity's set in now and price is set in now. But what are we going to need? What do you expect to see in terms of that recovery process and time frame? And what would be a sensible price?
So 80,000 is not sensible.
No. No.
Oh man, when I was at Millennial, I saw this happen multiple times. There's like this little bumps.
What price was it back then? I think pretty sure we were talking it was
8,000,
about 8,000, right?
6 to 8. And, lithium brine projects, it made sense at that point, and then it jumped higher. I think it'll probably end up 20 to 30. Which is fantastic. It was an incredible price, especially for these spodumene projects, large-scale spodumene projects. It'd be extraordinarily economic at those prices. So kind of longer term, somewhere in there. Who knows exactly? It's still, as you said, kind of a nascent trading market, right? That's one of the issues. Is it's not traded at LME. It's not on the Shanghai. So you have these direct contracts. There are some auctions, and it's still an immature market. So once that maturity comes within the market, then you see the steadier prices. And China playing games as well also changes things here and there. And I think they've been doing that recently, keeping the price low. And if you look at the EV sales in China, it's now over 50% of all new vehicles. It's incredible. Like Europe, Australia, Southeast Asia, the amount of electric vehicles that are being purchased new is growing. I know in the U.S. it's stagnated a little bit. I think it's more of a political thing, to be honest. But we'll see what happens in the fall election. And if somebody else comes in, then Buy America will come in, and they're building all these EV plants and battery manufacturer plants within the U.S. and states like Texas and Tennessee. And it'll be Buy America, and I think you'll see a big uptake again.
It's kind of interesting. We saw I think the Chinese government raised their hackles a little bit yesterday at the EU for unnecessary taxing of their products into market. The North American market feels different, though. Sure. The U.S. will seem a little bit more aggressive, and the Canadian as the friendly neighbor follows suit there. How do you imagine the kind of U.S. market? Do you imagine the U.S. market and the European market almost separating in a way? Because there's a lot going on, right?
For sure. Like I know in Europe right now, like you can buy a BYD vehicle, electric vehicle, for $11,000.
Wow!
I saw them in Hong Kong. They're nice. Like they're not terrible. Yeah. For $11,000 all electric vehicle that's fungible within the European market, that won't fly in the U.S. So I think again you're gonna have divergent. European Union's gonna have to decide where they want their lithium from. They have the processing capability. Obviously, they just don't have the supply.
Well, that's it. That's what I'm saying. It's like, does basically Europe have to sort of sidle up with the US? Can it afford to do that? Because China is a very big trading partner with them as well.
We'll see what happens.
See that awkward person sitting in the middle of a date.
It's the Koreans are having the exact same philosophy issue right now. Like, they're getting the supply, but then now you're not going to be able to sell to your largest market. Right. So what does that mean? Yeah. So it's interesting, and I think it's not going to happen overnight, but all these policy things do take a while. So we'll see that over the next 8 to 18 months. I would think there'd be a lot clearer vision of what it's going to look like and what that means for all these companies. And how do you feel about less competition in terms of the equities market for you guys? Because I think there's a lot of people jumped on the bandwagon. Yes. They were nickel, now they're lithium. They were gold, now they're lithium. I think a lot of that's going to go away, which is good news in terms of that white noise. Yeah.
Does that eventually sort of trickle down into the kind of good, solid, real lithium companies like yourselves?
100%. So we always see that, whatever the market might be, cannabis or AI, it's probably happening right now. So the best and brightest always rise to the top. Those companies stick around. You do see a little bit of M&A within those sectors as things progress. But again, the best and brightest kind of move forward, and having hopefully a very large resource will allow us to be one of those better companies. In terms of competition for dollars, it is relatively minimal. The retail side, sure, they'll dabble. They like to see something lower cost. 10 cents could go to 20 cents. They're thrilled. Whereas institutional investors would generally stay away from those anyway.
Right.
So I think, having less lithium companies out there is a good opportunity, but there are some good projects out there. So maybe even down the road could be some M&A possibilities for a group like us that has the capacity to be able to do it.
And access to cash. Good man.
Yep. Thank you.
Good to see you, Alex. Thanks for coming in. Okay?
Cheers. Thank you.